A little beggar warned a millionaire at the airport, "Your plane will crash." What happened next shocked everyone. But before we continue with this story, don't forget to subscribe and comment below from where are you watching from today. Michael Sterling always thought money could protect him from anything. But on that fateful morning at Sky Harbor International Airport, all his billions couldn't have saved him if it wasn't for a little girl in torn clothes. The day started like any other for the 45-year-old business tycoon. His driver dropped him off at the private terminal where his usual team of security guards waited. Michael adjusted his red tie, smoothing down his expensive grey suit as he walked through the terminal. Everything about him screamed success, from his perfectly styled salt and pepper hair to his Italian leather shoes. "Mr. Sterling, the jet is ready for your trip to New York," said Tom, his head of security. Tom had worked for Michael for 10 years, and he ran a tight ship. Nothing ever got past his team, or at least that's what they thought. "Get out of my way, please, I need to stop him." A small voice cut through the quiet of the private terminal. Before anyone could react, a little girl with tangled brown hair pushed through the security team. Her clothes were dirty and torn, and she wasn't wearing any shoes. But her eyes, they burned with desperation. "Don't get on that plane," she screamed, running straight toward Michael. "They put a bomb on it. You'll die if you get on that plane." Tom's security team immediately moved to grab her, but Michael raised his hand to stop them. Something about the girl's voice, the raw fear in it, made him pause. "Hold on," Michael said, kneeling down to the girl's level. "What's your name? How do you know about my plane?" But before she could answer, a deafening explosion rocked the terminal. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Michael watched in horror as his private jet erupted into a massive fireball on the tarmac. The blast was so powerful it shattered several windows, sending glass raining down as people screamed and ducked for cover. In the chaos that followed, the mysterious girl disappeared. "Find her!" Michael ordered his security team, his heart still racing from the near-death experience. "I don't care what it takes. Find that girl!" The next few hours were a blur of police interviews, FBI agents, and news reporters. Everyone wanted to know how Michael Sterling, one of America's richest men, had almost been killed. The initial investigation confirmed what the girl had said. Someone had planted a sophisticated, explosive device on the plane. "Sir," Tom approached him later that evening at Michael's penthouse, "we've been reviewing security footage from the airport. The girl seems to have appeared out of nowhere. None of the cameras caught her entering the terminal." Michael stood by his floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the Phoenix skyline. The sun was setting, painting the desert sky in shades of orange and purple. "She saved my life, Tom. I want every available resource focused on finding her. She's the key to understanding who's trying to kill me." As days passed, Michael couldn't shake the image of the girl's face from his mind. Who was she? How did she know about the bomb? The questions kept him awake at night, along with the growing paranoia about who might have ordered the hit. His ex-wife Janet called as soon as she saw the news. "Michael, what's going on? Are you okay? Have you talked to Emma?" Emma was their 19-year-old daughter, away at college in California. "I'm fine, Janet. Emma's safe, but someone wanted me dead, and a mysterious little girl saved my life. I need to find her. Just be careful," Janet warned. "You have enemies, Michael. Your business deals haven't exactly made you popular with everyone." She was right. Over the years, Michael had built Sterling Enterprises from a small tech startup into a global empire. Along the way, he'd stepped on quite a few toes. Hostile takeovers, aggressive expansion, buying out competitors. It had all made him rich, but it had also made him powerful enemies. A week after the explosion, Tom finally got a lead. "Sir, we found footage of the girl at a homeless shelter downtown. She was there 2 days before the incident." Michael grabbed his coat. "Let's go now." The shelter was in a rundown part of Phoenix, worlds away from Michael's usual haunts. Inside, a kind-faced woman named Mary ran the place. When shown a picture of the girl, her eyes lit up with recognition. "That's Lily," Mary said. "Sweet child. She started coming here about 6 months ago. Never talks about where she came from or her family. But she's different from our other kids. Smart, observant. Sometimes she says strange things, like she knows things she shouldn't." "Where can I find her?" Michael asked. Mary shook her head. "She comes and goes, but there's something else you should know. The day before your incident, she was very agitated. She kept saying someone bad was going to hurt the rich man in the news. We thought she was just confused, but..." Michael's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. His blood ran cold as he read it. The girl was lucky this time. Next time, no one will save you. Everything you built will burn, Michael Sterling. This is just the beginning. Looking up from his phone, Michael knew one thing for certain. Finding Lily wasn't just about gratitude anymore. It was about survival. Someone wanted to destroy him, and that little girl was his only hope of discovering who and why. Tom appeared at his side. "Sir, we just got another hit on the facial recognition. The girl, she's been spotted at the old warehouse district." "Let's go," Michael said, straightening his tie. "It's time to get some answers." As they drove through the darkening streets of Phoenix, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that his life had changed forever. Money, power, success, none of it meant anything if someone wanted you dead. And his only ally was a mysterious little girl who seemed to know far more than she should. The warehouse district loomed ahead, its abandoned buildings casting long shadows in the setting sun. Somewhere in this maze of empty structures, a child held the key to Michael's survival. He just hoped he could find her before his enemies found him first. The old warehouse district was eerily quiet as Michael's black SUV pulled up to the curb. The setting sun cast long shadows between the buildings, and a cool evening breeze rustled through scattered papers on the ground. Tom, his security chief, spoke quietly into his radio, directing his team to surround the area. "Sir, maybe you should wait in the car," Tom suggested, his hand resting on his holstered gun. "We don't know what we're walking into." But Michael was already stepping out of the SUV. "No, Tom, this girl saved my life. If she's scared, seeing a bunch of armed men might only frighten her more." They began searching the warehouses one by one. Most were empty, filled with nothing but dust and old machinery. But in the third building they found signs of life. A small makeshift bed made from cardboard boxes and old blankets, empty food containers, and a worn backpack. "Someone's been living here," Tom said, picking up a small notebook. Inside were drawings, crude sketches of men in suits, airplanes, and what looked like explosions. The last page made Michael's blood run cold. It was a drawing of his private jet, with flames coming from it. "She knew," Michael whispered. "She knew about the bomb before it happened." But how? A noise from above made them all look up. There, on a metal catwalk near the ceiling, stood Lily. Her small figure was silhouetted against the light coming through a broken window. "Lily!" Michael called out softly. "Please, don't run. I just want to talk." The girl hesitated, then spoke, in a trembling voice. "They'll hurt me if I talk to you. They're watching. They're always watching." "Who's watching, Lily? Who are they?" Before she could answer, the sound of screeching tires came from outside. Tom's radio crackled to life with urgent voices reporting multiple black vans approaching. Lily's eyes went wide with fear. Here they found me." She turned to run. "Wait," Michael called out. "Let me help you. You saved my life, and let me protect you." But Lily was already disappearing into the shadows of the warehouse's upper level. Outside, car doors slammed, and footsteps approached rapidly. "Sir, we need to move now." Tom grabbed Michael's arm, pulling him toward a back exit. As they rushed out, Michael caught glimpses of men in black tactical gear entering the warehouse. They weren't police. These men moved like professional killers. Back in the SUV, speeding through the darkening streets of Phoenix, Michael's mind raced. Who were those men? What did they want with Lily? And how had she known about the bomb? His phone rang. It was his daughter, Emma. "Dad, are you okay? I just saw on the news about another attack." "What attack?" Michael switched on the car's built-in TV. Breaking news showed his corporate headquarters surrounded by fire trucks and ambulances. There had been an explosion in the executive parking garage. "I'm fine, honey. I wasn't there," he assured Emma. "But listen, I need you to be extra careful. Don't trust anyone outside your regular security detail, and call me immediately if anything seems unusual." After hanging up, Michael turned to Tom. The garage explosion wasn't random. "They're sending a message. First the plane, now this." "Sir," Tom looked uncomfortable. "There's something else you should know. The security footage from the garage. It shows Marcus Brooks entering just before the explosion." Michael felt like he'd been punched in the gut. Marcus was his oldest friend and business partner. They'd started Sterling Enterprises together 20 years ago. "That's impossible. Marcus would never. The FBI has already picked him up for questioning, but sir, he's not talking. He's asking for you." At the Phoenix FBI field office, Michael found Marcus sitting in an interrogation room. His once pristine suit was rumpled, and his face was ashen. When Michael entered, Marcus barely looked up. "Why, Marcus?" Michael asked, sitting across from his old friend. "What did they offer you?" Marcus's laugh was hollow. "Offer me? They didn't offer me anything, Michael. They threatened everything I love, just like they're going to do to you." "Who are they? You don't get it, do you?" Marcus leaned forward. "This isn't about money, it's about power. The kind of power that makes billionaires look like small-time players. And that little girl," his voice trembled, "she's the key to everything. Find her, protect her, before they do. She's more important than you know." Before Michael could ask more questions, Marcus suddenly clutched his chest, gasping for air. Within seconds, he was convulsing. As FBI agents rushed in with medical personnel, Michael watched helplessly as his oldest friend died right in front of him. "It was poison," the FBI told him later, "probably taken before you arrived." He knew he was going to die. Back at his penthouse, Michael stood at his window watching the city lights flicker below. His phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. Marcus made his choice. "How many more have to die before you understand? Give us the girl, or watch everything you love burn." Michael's jaw clenched as he deleted the message. They wanted Lily, this scared, homeless little girl who somehow knew things she shouldn't. But why? What made her so special that people were willing to kill for her? A soft knock at his door made him turn. It was Sandra, his housekeeper for the past 15 years. "Mr. Sterling, there's someone here to see you." And there, standing behind Sandra, was Lily. Her clothes were still dirty, her feet still bare, but her eyes held a determination that seemed far older than her years. "They killed him, didn't they?" she asked quietly. "Just like they killed my parents." Michael nodded slowly. "Who are you, Lily? Really?" The girl took a deep breath. "I'm the one they've been looking for, the one they're afraid of. And I need your help, Mr. Sterling, because what I can do, what I know, it could change everything." As Michael looked at this small, brave child, he knew his life would never be the same. The question was he ready for what came next? Sandra, Michael's housekeeper, brought Lily a warm bowl of chicken soup and a fresh change of clothes. The girl sat at the kitchen island in Michael's penthouse, her feet now clean and wrapped in soft white socks. She looked small and vulnerable in one of Emma's old sweaters that Sandra had kept in storage. "When did you last eat properly?" Michael asked, watching as Lily practically inhaled the soup. "I don't remember," she admitted between spoonfuls. "The shelter gives food, but I couldn't stay there long. They always find me when I stay in one place too long." Tom stood by the door, coordinating with his security team through his earpiece. He doubled the guards in the building and had men watching every entrance. But Michael knew that if these people were powerful enough to get to Marcus, regular security might not be enough. "Lily," Michael said gently, sitting across from her, "I need you to tell me everything. How did you know about the bomb on my plane? Who are these people chasing you? And what happened to your parents?" The girl set down her spoon and looked at Michael with those unnervingly mature eyes. "Sometimes I see things before they happen. Not everything and not all the time. But when something really bad is going to happen, I see it in my dreams." Michael exchanged glances with Tom. "You mean like psychic visions?" "I saw your plane exploding 3 nights before it happened," Lily continued. "I saw your face on TV, and then I saw fire and metal falling from the sky. I had to stop it. I couldn't let it happen again. Not like with Mom and Dad." Her voice cracked on the last words, and tears started rolling down her cheeks. Sandra immediately moved to comfort her, but Lily wiped her eyes with her sleeve and continued. "My parents were scientists. They worked for a company called Future Horizons. They studied people like me, people who could see things before they happened. But then they discovered something bad, really bad. They tried to expose it, but what did they discover, Lily?" Michael pressed gently. "Future Horizons wasn't just studying people like me. They were trying to create more of us, doing experiments on kids. My parents couldn't let it continue. They gathered evidence, planned to go public. I had a dream about men coming to our house with guns, but..." She started crying again. "They didn't believe me. They thought I was just having nightmares." Michael felt a chill run down his spine. He remembered Future Horizons. His company had almost done business with them 2 years ago, but the deal fell through at the last minute. Marcus had been the one to stop it, saying something about their research methods being questionable. Marcus, who was now dead because he tried to warn Michael. "Sir," Tom interrupted, "you need to see this." He handed Michael his tablet, showing a news article from 2 years ago. The headline read, Tragic fire claims lives of Future Horizons researchers. Below was a photo of a happy family. A man, a woman, and a younger Lily, all smiling at the camera. Dr. James and Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Tom read, both died in a house fire. Their daughter was never found, presumed dead. They made it look like an accident, Lily said quietly, but it wasn't. And now they're trying to do the same thing to you, Mr. Sterling, because you're getting too close to the truth. Michael's phone rang. It was Janet again. Michael, thank God you answered. Something's wrong with Emma. His heart stopped. What do you mean? What's happened? She missed her morning classes. When her roommate checked her room, it was empty. Her phone's off and her car is still in the parking lot. Michael, there was a note. Janet's voice shook. It says if you want to see her again, you have to trade. Her for the girl. Michael felt the room spin. First Marcus, now Emma. These people were systematically attacking everything he loved. Dad! Emma's voice suddenly came on the line, terrified and breathless. Dad, don't let them take Lily. They're monsters. They're doing terrible things to... Her voice cut off with a scream. You have 12 hours, Mr. Sterling. A cold, professional voice replaced Emma's. The girl for your daughter. We'll contact you with the location. The line went dead. Michael looked at Lily, who was trembling. I saw this too, she whispered. Last night, I saw them taking her. I should have warned you, but I was scared. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Michael said firmly, though his heart was racing. But I need you to tell me everything you saw in that dream. Every detail could help us find Emma. Sir, Tom interjected, you can't seriously be considering meeting these people. They'll kill you all. They'll kill Emma if we don't, Michael snapped. Then more calmly, but you're right, we need a plan and we need help. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. Sarah, it's Michael Sterling. I know we haven't spoken since the divorce, but I need your help. It's about Future Horizons. Sarah Sterling, his first wife and Emma's mother, had been silent for a moment. Then, I'll be there in 20 minutes. And Michael? I'm bringing files they never wanted you to see. As Michael hung up, Lily suddenly grabbed his arm, her eyes wide with fear. She's coming, but she's not alone. They're following her. I can see them, men in black cars. They're going to be waiting when she arrives. Michael turned to Tom. Get the garage sealed off. Call in every security officer we have, and find me someone who can hack into Future Horizons systems. If we're going to save Emma, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Looking at Lily's frightened face, Michael made a silent promise. He would protect this girl, save his daughter, and expose whatever evil Future Horizons was hiding, even if it cost him everything he had. The sun was setting over Phoenix, casting long shadows across the city. In his penthouse high above it all, Michael Sterling prepared for war, but this wasn't a battle that could be won with money or business tactics. This time, his enemies were playing for keeps, and somewhere out there, Emma was waiting for rescue, while Sarah was driving into what might be a trap. The next few hours would change everything, if they survived them. Sarah Sterling hadn't changed much in the 5 years since the divorce. Her blonde hair was shorter now, and there were a few more lines around her eyes, but she still carried herself with the same determination that had first attracted Michael to her 25 years ago. She burst into his penthouse with an armful of files and a look that meant business. Where is she? Sarah demanded, not even bothering with hello. Where's the girl who can see the future? Lily stepped out from behind Sandra, who had been protectively hovering near her all evening. Sarah's expression softened when she saw her. Oh, sweetheart, you look just like your mother. You knew my mom? Lily asked, her voice small. I more than knew her. Sarah Mitchell and I worked together at Future Horizons 15 years ago before Emma was born. Sarah turned to Michael. That's why I quit my research career. What they were doing there, I couldn't be part of it. Tom interrupted from his position by the window. Ma'am, did you notice anyone following you? 3 black SUVs, just like the girl said. Sarah's mouth set in a grim line. They'll be setting up their positions now. We have maybe 10 minutes before they make their move. Michael's phone buzzed with another text. Time's running out. Bring the girl to the old Future Horizons facility by midnight. Come alone or Emma dies. We need to move, Tom said. This building isn't secure enough. No, Lily suddenly spoke up. We have to stay. I saw it. This is where we need to be. But first, she walked over to Sarah's files and pulled out one specific folder without even looking through them. We need this. Inside were photos that made Michael's blood run cold. Children hooked up to machines, laboratory reports with terms like precognitive enhancement, and temporal perception modification, and most disturbing of all, a list of test subjects, with both Lily's and Emma's names on it. They've been watching Emma since she was born, Sarah explained, her voice shaking. That's the real reason I left Michael and took her away. I thought if we disappeared, they'd leave her alone, but they never stopped monitoring her. They were just waiting for the right moment. Why Emma? Michael demanded. What do they want? With our daughter. Because she's like me, Lily said quietly. She just doesn't know it yet, but they do. They've always known. An explosion rocked the building before anyone could respond. The lights flickered and went out, plunging the penthouse into darkness. Emergency lights kicked on, casting everything in an eerie red glow. They're here, Tom shouted, drawing his weapon. Sir, we need to get you and the others to the panic room. But Lily grabbed Michael's arm. No, that's what they want. We have to go to the roof now. The roof is a dead end, Tom argued. Trust her, Sarah said firmly. If she's anything like her mother, she knows what she's doing. They ran for the stairs, hearing the sounds of gunfire and shouting from below. Michael's security team was buying them time, but how much? On the roof, the wind whipped around them as they emerged into the night air. The lights of Phoenix spread out below them like a sea of stars. Now what? Michael asked, holding Lily close as Sarah kept watch at the door. Wait for it, Lily whispered. Just a few more seconds. The door to the roof burst open. Men in tactical gear poured out, weapons raised. In the lead was a tall man with steel-gray hair and cold eyes. Dr. Klein, Sarah gasped. I should have known you'd be heading this personally. Sarah Sterling? The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Still trying to protect children from their destiny? You should have stayed retired. He turned to Lily. Come now, child, enough games. You've had your fun playing hero, but it's time to come home. Where's my daughter? Michael demanded. Emma is perfectly safe. In fact, she's finally where she belongs, fulfilling her true potential, just like Lily will, once we help her understand her gift properly. You mean control it, Sarah spat. Turn her into a weapon, just like you tried to do with all the others. The world is changing, Sarah. Those who can see the future will shape it. We're just helping nature along. Dr. Klein took a step forward. Now hand over the girl or this gets unpleasant. That's when Lily smiled. Too late. The sound of helicopter rotors filled the air as a black military chopper rose up from the side of the building. In the open door stood Emma, her college sweater torn and dirty, but her eyes blazing with determination. Next to her was a tall man in tactical gear that matched the teams below. Agent Wilson, FBI, the man shouted over a megaphone. Dr. Klein, you and your men are surrounded. Drop your weapons. Now, Lily screamed. Everything happened at once. Emma threw something from the helicopter, flashbang grenades that exploded. In brilliant light, Dr. Klein's men stumbled, temporarily blinded. The helicopter dropped rope ladders as more FBI agents rappelled onto the roof. You think this changes anything? Dr. Klein snarled as his men engaged in a firefight with the FBI. We own half the government. You have no idea how deep this goes. No, said Lily calmly, but they do. She pointed to the news helicopters that were suddenly appearing all around the building, their cameras capturing everything. I saw this too. That's why we had to be here on this roof at this exact moment, so everyone could see the truth. Emma was quickly lowered to the roof on a rescue line. She ran to her parents, who grabbed her in a tight embrace. I'm sorry, she sobbed. They took me from my dorm. But then I started seeing things, knowing things, and I understood what Lily's been trying to tell us. It's not over, Lily warned as FBI agents took Dr. Klein into custody. There are more like him, more facilities, more children. Then, we'll find them, Michael said firmly. All of them, and we'll shut them down. Sarah nodded. Together, as the helicopters circled and police sirens wailed from below, Michael looked at this strange group fate had brought together. His ex-wife, his daughter, and a mysterious little girl who had changed everything. Whatever came next, they would face it as a family. But in the back of his mind, he couldn't shake the feeling that Dr. Klein was right about one thing. This was only the beginning. The real war for the future was just starting. And somewhere in the night, other children, like Lily, were waiting to be found, waiting to be saved, waiting for someone to believe in their impossible dreams. The morning after the rooftop battle, Michael's penthouse was a hub of activity. FBI agents came and went, collecting evidence and taking statements. News channels played non-stop coverage of the dramatic helicopter rescue and Dr. Klein's arrest. But in Michael's kitchen, a different kind of scene was unfolding. More pancakes, sweetie? Sandra asked Lily, who sat at the kitchen island next to Emma. The two girls had barely left each other's side since the night before. "Yes, please," Lily said, managing a small smile. She looked different now, cleaned up, wearing new clothes that Sarah had bought early that morning. For the first time, she looked like what she was, a regular 10-year-old girl. Emma reached over and squeezed Lily's hand. Since discovering her own abilities, Emma had become fiercely protective of the younger girl. "We're safe now," she said, softly. "They can't hurt us anymore." Sarah, who was reviewing more files at the dining table, looked up sharply. "Don't be so sure about that. Klein was just one part of a much bigger operation, and his friends won't be happy about what happened last night." Michael walked in, ending a phone call with his lawyers. He looked tired. None of them had slept much. "The board of directors is calling an emergency meeting. They want explanations about everything. The bomb, Marcus's death, the attack on the building." "What are you going to tell them?" Sarah asked. "The truth, or at least as much of it as they can handle." He sat down heavily in a chair. "But first, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Emma, honey, can you tell us what happened at the Future Horizons facility?" Emma's hands trembled slightly as she set down her fork. "After they took me from my dorm, they brought me to this old research building outside the city. They had other kids there, younger ones. They were doing tests trying to trigger what they called the gift." She swallowed hard. "Most of the kids were crying. Some of them hadn't seen their parents in months. We need to help them," Lily said firmly. "I can see them in my dreams. They're so scared." Tom entered the kitchen carrying his tablet. "Sir, you need to see this. Klein's been found dead in his cell. They're saying it was suicide, but we all know better." Sarah finished. She pulled out another file from her stack. "Look at this. It's a list of Future Horizons board members and major investors. Some of these names, they're powerful people. Politicians, business leaders, military officials. That's not all," Tom continued. "Our tech team finally cracked Klein's phone. He made one call right before we arrested him to someone called the director." Lily suddenly went very still. "I know that name," she whispered. "He was in my parents' files. They were trying to expose him, but they never learned his real identity." Michael's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Impressive show, Mr. Sterling. But did you really think it would be that easy? Ask your new little friend about Project Oracle. The truth might surprise you." "Project Oracle?" Michael looked at Lily. The girl's face had gone pale. "That's what they called us. The ones who could see the future. But there was more to it. Something my parents discovered. Something so bad they knew they had to stop it." "What was it, Lily?" Sarah asked gently. Before Lily could answer, Emma suddenly gasped, her eyes going unfocused. "They're coming," she said in a strange, distant voice. "They're going to hit all of us at once. Different teams, different cities, and..." She looked at Michael in horror. "Someone inside your company is helping them. Someone close to you." As if on cue, Michael's phone exploded with notifications. His company's stock was in free fall. News headlines screamed about investigations into Sterling Enterprises' dealings with Future Horizons. And most worrying of all, his private banking accounts were being drained. Millions disappearing by the second. "They're trying to destroy you financially," Sarah said, watching the chaos unfold on her own phone, just like they did to Lily's. "Parents before the fire." "Sir," Tom interrupted urgently, "your sister Caroline is on the line. She says it's an emergency." Michael's sister Caroline lived in New York, running the East Coast division of Sterling Enterprises. She'd always been the stable one, the voice of reason in family crises. But when Michael took the call, her voice was shaking. "Michael, thank God they've taken Jake, Caroline's teenage son, Michael's nephew. Men broke into his school 20 minutes ago. They left a message. They say if you don't back off and hand over the girls, they'll take him just like the others." Michael felt the blood drain from his face. They weren't just attacking him anymore. They were going after his entire family. "There's more," Caroline continued, her voice breaking. "Michael, I found Mom's old journals. She knew about Future Horizons. She was part of their first experiments back in the 1970s. That's why..." She took a shuddering breath. "That's why both her children were born with the gift. You and me both, Michael. We just never knew it." The room seemed to spin as Michael processed this revelation. All those hunches that had made him such a successful businessman, all those lucky guesses. Had he been like Emma and Lily all along? "The director," Lily said suddenly, her eyes wide with a new vision. "He's going to make an announcement. Tomorrow, on national television. He's going to expose everything." but his version of the truth. Once he does, she looked at them all with tears in her eyes. There will be no going back. The world will change forever. Sarah grabbed her car keys. We need to move now. I have a safe house outside the city where we can regroup and make a plan. No, Emma said firmly. We can't run. Not anymore. Mum, Dad, we have to fight back. All of us together, because we're the only ones who can. Michael looked at his daughter, not the college student she'd been just days ago, but a strong young woman ready to face whatever came next. Then at Lily, so young but so brave. At Sarah, who had tried to warn him about future horizons years ago. At Tom, loyal despite the danger. They were an unlikely team. A broken family made whole again by crisis, and now they had less than 24 hours to stop a conspiracy that went deeper than any of them had imagined. Caroline, Michael said into the phone, get somewhere safe. We're coming to get Jake. And then, he looked at the others, seeing determination in their faces. Then we're going to show the world who the real monsters are. As if in answer, every phone in the room buzzed simultaneously with the same message. Time to choose sides. Children of Project Oracle. Tomorrow the world learns the truth about evolution's next step. Will you be heroes or casualties when the new age begins? The game had changed. It wasn't just about saving a few gifted children anymore. It was about the future of humanity itself. And somewhere out there, the mysterious director was watching, waiting to make his move. Michael looked at his strange new family and made a silent vow. Whatever it took, whatever the cost, he would protect them all. The real war was just beginning. The safe house turned out to be a sprawling ranch about an hour outside Phoenix, hidden behind tall gates and surrounded by desert. As their convoy of SUVs pulled up to the main house, Sarah finally explained, I bought this place through a shell company after I left Future Horizons, she said, punching in the security code. I always knew we might need somewhere to hide. Someday, I just didn't think it would be like this. Inside, the house was a fortress disguised as a luxury home. Security cameras covered every angle. The windows were bulletproof. The basement held enough supplies to last months. Mum, Emma said softly, looking around, you've been preparing for this for years, haven't you? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Since the day you were born, when I first held you in my arms, I saw flashes, like you and Lily do. I saw what they might do to you if they ever found out what you could become. That's why I had to leave. I thought if I kept you away from your father's world of power and money, you'd be safer. Michael, who had been quietly listening, felt his heart break a little. All these years he'd thought Sarah had left him because of his workaholic tendencies, his focus on building his empire, but she'd been protecting their daughter from a threat he hadn't even known existed. Tom came in from setting up the security perimeter. The FBI has teams watching Caroline's house in New York, but there's still no sign of Jake, and sir, there's something else. We found a bug in your office. It's been there for months. Who placed it? Michael demanded. According to the serial number, it was installed by Rebecca Chen. Michael felt like he'd been punched in the gut. Rebecca was his chief financial officer, someone he'd trusted completely for the past 5 years. She'd been the one who first suggested the partnership with Future Horizons 2 years ago. She's working with them, Lily said quietly. She always was. They placed her in your company to watch you, to make sure you never got too close to the truth about your family. Emma suddenly grabbed her father's arm. Dad, I remember something. From when they had me at the facility, I heard them talking about Rebecca. They called her the director's daughter. Before anyone could react to this revelation, all their phones chimed at once. It was a video message showing Jake, Caroline's son, tied to a chair in what looked like an office. Behind him stood Rebecca Chen, looking coldly professional in her usual designer suit. Hello, Michael, she said smoothly. I think it's time we had a family reunion. You see, my father is very interested in meeting his relatives. The director is your father. Michael's voice was hoarse. Howard Chen, though you might remember him better by his original name, Howard Sterling. Your father's brother, the one they wrote out of the family history after his radical ideas about human evolution got him kicked out of medical school. Rebecca's smile was razor sharp. Surprise, cousin. This has always been about family. What do you want? Sarah demanded. Simple. Bring Lily and Emma to the old Sterling family estate in Massachusetts. You remember it, don't you, Michael? Where you and Caroline spent your summers as children, where your father and mine first discovered their own gifts. Rebecca stroked Jake's hair, making the teenager flinch. Bring them by midnight tomorrow, or Jake dies. And then we start working our way through the rest of the family tree. The video ended, leaving them all in stunned silence. The Sterling estate, Sarah whispered. Of course, that's where it all started. Your father's research lab was there in the old carriage house. That's where the first Project Oracle experiments took place. My father. Michael felt like his whole world was shifting. He was part of this. He tried to stop it. Caroline's voice came from the doorway. They turned to see Michael's sister standing there, looking exhausted but determined. She'd flown in from New York on her private jet the moment Jake was taken. I found more of Mum's journals. Dad saw what Howard was doing, experimenting on children, trying to enhance their natural precognitive abilities. He tried to shut it down to expose the truth. That's when Howard arranged the car accident that killed him and Mom. Michael had to sit down. The car crash that had orphaned him and Caroline when they were teenagers, it hadn't been an accident at all. There's something else, Caroline continued, her hands shaking as she pulled out an old leather journal. Mom wrote about a prophecy, something all the original children saw in their visions, about a time when 2 generations of gifted ones would come together, when the powers would grow strong enough to, she swallowed hard, to change the course of human evolution itself. That's what the director wants, Lily said, her eyes distant as another vision took hold. He wants to trigger a mass awakening, to activate the dormant gifts in people all over the world. But she looked terrified. If he does it wrong, if he pushes too hard, the human mind isn't ready, Emma finished, understanding dawning on her face. It would drive people mad, cause chaos. Which is exactly what he wants, Sarah said grimly. Chaos he can control. Say a world where only the gifted ones survive, with him as their leader. Michael looked at his strange, fractured, gifted family. His daughter Emma, who had grown so strong. His sister Caroline, finally understanding her own hidden powers. Lily, wise beyond her years. Sarah, who had sacrificed everything to protect their child. And somewhere out there, Jake, paying the price for a family legacy he hadn't even known about. We can't give him what he wants, Michael said firmly. But we can't abandon Jake either. We won't have to, Lily said, her voice stronger now. I saw something else, something they don't know about yet. She smiled slightly. We're not the only ones with gifts. And right now, all over the country, others like us are waking up. The director thinks he can control this awakening, but he's wrong. The real power isn't in forcing the gift on people. It's in letting them choose, Emma finished. Like you did with me, Lily. You didn't force my gift to wake up, you just helped me understand when it did. Sarah was already on her laptop, accessing old Future Horizons files. If we can find the others, if we can warn them before Howard makes his move, we'll need help, Caroline said. I made some calls on the way here. Remember Peter Wong from high school? He's NSA now, and guess what? His daughter just started having visions too. Michael stood up, feeling purpose replace his shock. Tom, get the jet ready. Caroline, call Peter. Sarah, download everything. You can about the estate's layout. Emma, Lily, we need you to focus. Try to see what's waiting for us there. What about Rebecca? Tom asked. Michael's jaw tightened. My dear cousin made one mistake. She forgot that betrayal runs both ways in our family, and she's about to learn what happens when you threaten a Sterling. As they prepared for the confrontation ahead, Michael looked at the security camera feeds showing the desert around them. Somewhere out there, a new dawn was coming. The question was, would it bring evolution or extinction? The answer, he realized, would depend on what they did in the next 24 hours. The fate of not just their family, but of humanity itself, hung in the balance. And in the distance, storm clouds were gathering over the desert, as if nature itself knew that a moment of profound change was coming. Michael's private jet cut through the dark clouds as they flew east toward Massachusetts. The cabin was quiet, each person lost in their own thoughts. Emma sat with Lily, both girls holding hands, their eyes occasionally going distant as visions came and went. Sarah and Caroline pored over their mother's old journals, trying to piece together the full story of their family's dark legacy. I found something, Caroline said suddenly, holding up a yellowed photograph. It showed 2 young boys standing in front of a massive Victorian mansion, the Sterling estate. It's Dad and Uncle Howard before everything went wrong. Michael took the photo, studying the faces of the 2 boys. His father, John Sterling, was smiling broadly at the camera, but Howard's expression was intense, almost haunting even as a child. They were just kids when they first started showing signs of the gift, Caroline read from their mother's journal. John, Dad? He tried to ignore it, but Howard became obsessed. He thought they were the next step in human evolution. When their own father threatened to send him to a psychiatric hospital, Howard ran away. He changed his name, built a new identity. By the time he resurfaced as Howard Chen, he had already started Future Horizons. And Rebecca? Michael asked, thinking of his cousin who had hidden in plain sight for so long. Howard married a woman named Grace Liu, a genetic researcher, Sarah explained, pulling up old records on her laptop. They had Rebecca in 1985. Grace died in a lab accident when Rebecca was 10, though now I wonder if it really was an accident. Tom, who had been monitoring communications, suddenly sat up straight. Sir, we're getting reports from across the country. Peter Wong's NSA team has identified 37 families with children showing signs of precognitive abilities. All of them have received threats or visits from Future Horizons agents in the last 24 hours. They're rounding them up, Emma said, her voice shaking, getting ready for whatever the director, Uncle Howard, is planning. Lily squeezed Emma's hand tighter. But some of them are fighting back. I can see them. Parents protecting their children, kids helping each other escape. They're heading to safe places, just like Mrs. Sterling prepared. Sarah nodded. I wasn't the only one who saw this coming. Other former Future Horizons scientists, people who left when they realized what Howard was doing, they set up a network. Safe houses, escape routes, people who could help. Michael's phone lit up with a text from Rebecca. I can feel you getting closer, cousin. Did you know our fathers could always sense when the other was near? Another gift from our special bloodline. Hurry home. Jake is so looking forward to the family reunion. Attached was a photo of Jake, still tied up, but now in a wood-paneled room Michael recognized, his father's old study at the Sterling estate. She's trying to bait us, Caroline said, her face tight with worry for her son. Make us rush in without thinking. No, Lily said suddenly. She's afraid. I can see it. She knows something's not going right with their plan. The other families, they're not breaking like they're supposed to. And Uncle Howard, she shuddered. He's getting worse. The visions are consuming him. Emma nodded. I feel it too. It's like his gift has turned toxic. He's seeing too much all at once. Past, present, future. They're all blending together in his mind. Sarah looked grim. That's what happened to some of the early test subjects. The human mind isn't meant to process that much temporal information. It drives them mad. How long until we land? Michael asked Tom. About an hour. Our advance team reports the estate appears to be lightly guarded. Just a few security personnel visible. That's what they want us to see, Caroline said. I remember every inch of that property. All the secret passages, the underground labs, in the carriage house, the tunnels that run between buildings. Howard will have people everywhere. We're not alone either, Lily said with a small smile. Look, she pointed out the window. Below them, visible through breaks in the clouds, they could see other planes converging on the same area. Private jets, small aircraft, even a few military helicopters. The other families, Sarah breathed. They're coming. Michael's phone buzzed again. A message from Peter Wong. NSA teams in position. We've identified 43 gifted children and their families within range, all converging on your location. Howard won't know what hit him. He'll know, Emma said softly. He's probably seeing it right now, just like we are, but he can't stop it because he never understood the most important thing about this gift. What's that? Michael asked his daughter. It's not about power or control, it's about connection. Every vision I have, every future I see, it's all about people, how we help each other, how we change each other's lives. That's why his plan will fail. He wants to use these abilities to dominate, but they're really meant to bring us together. The pilot's voice came over the intercom. Mr. Sterling, we're beginning our descent, but sir, you should know there's something strange happening on the ground. The local weather service is reporting unusual phenomena. Electrical disturbances, temperature fluctuations. It's starting, Lily whispered. The convergence Mum and Dad wrote about. So many of us in one place, all our gifts resonating. Sarah was quickly typing on her laptop. Reports coming in from the area. People having mass déjà vu experiences. Children waking up from shared dreams. The veil between now and what could be is getting thinner. Rebecca just sent another message, Tom reported. Just 3 words. Too late now. Outside the plane's windows, the clouds had taken on an otherworldly glow. Lightning flickered in impossible colors. Below, the dark mass of the Sterling estate was visible, a Victorian monster crouching in the gathering storm. Michael looked at his family, blood and chosen old and young, each carrying a piece of this incredible legacy. They were flying into what could be a trap, facing an uncle he'd never known and a cousin who'd betrayed them. His corporation was under attack, his reputation in tatters, and somewhere in that house below, his nephew was being held hostage. But for the first time since this all began, he felt something like hope, because they weren't alone anymore. All across the country, other families were choosing love over fear, protection over power. The future Howard had tried to control was slipping through his fingers. "Ready?" he asked them all. Emma and Lily nodded together. Sarah checked her gun one last time. Caroline clutched their mother's journal to her chest. Tom confirmed their tactical teams were in position. The plane began its final approach as the storm intensified around them. In the distance, car headlights could be seen converging on the estate, more families arriving, drawn by visions and warnings and the desperate need to protect their children. The real battle for the future was about to begin, and this time the Sterlings would face it together. The Sterling estate loomed before them, a massive Victorian mansion silhouetted against the strange storm-lit sky. As Michael's group approached the main gates, Emma suddenly grabbed her father's arm. "Wait," she whispered. "Something's wrong. This isn't like my visions, it's different." Lily nodded, her small face pale in the weird lightning. "He's changing things. The director. He's seen us coming and he's trying to change the future we saw." The front door of the mansion burst open. Rebecca Chen strode out, as polished and professional as ever, in her designer suit. But there was something wild in her eyes, something that hadn't been there before. "Welcome home, family," she called out, spreading her arms wide. "Dad's been so looking forward to this reunion, though I have to admit, he didn't expect quite so many guests." She gestured to the growing crowd behind Michael's group. More cars and vehicles were arriving every minute. Families with children, some as young as 5, others teenagers like Emma, all of them with the same look in their eyes, the look of people who had seen what was coming and chosen to fight. "Where's my son?" Caroline demanded, stepping forward. "Aunt Caroline." Rebecca's smile was sharp. "Jake's fine, he's with grandfather." This caught everyone off guard. "What do you mean with grandfather?" Michael asked. "Our father is dead." Rebecca laughed, and the sound held an edge of hysteria. "Is he? Are you sure about that, Uncle Michael? In this family, death isn't always what it seems." The mansion's front door opened again. 2 figures emerged. One was Jake, looking scared but unharmed. The other was an elderly man in a wheelchair, his face deeply lined but his eyes bright and alert. "Dad?" Caroline whispered in shock. "Hello." "My children," John Sterling said softly. "I'm sorry it had to be like this, but Howard left us no choice." Sarah grabbed Michael's arm. "That's impossible. John Sterling died 20 years ago." "A carefully staged accident," the old man explained. "When I discovered what Howard was planning, what he wanted to do with the children, I had to go underground to build a resistance to prepare for this day." He looked at Emma and Lily with tears in his eyes. "My grandchildren, my God, look how strong you've become." Rebecca's composure cracked slightly. "No, you're ruining everything. Dad saw this. He saw all of this. We're supposed to guide humanity to its next stage, not coddle them." "Your father sees what his madness wants him to see," John Sterling said firmly. "Where is he, Rebecca? Where's my brother?" A terrible laugh echoed from inside the mansion. Howard Chen, formerly Howard Sterling, emerged from the shadows. He was tall and gaunt, his grey hair wild, his eyes burning with an unnatural light, always trying to protect everyone. "Aren't you, Johnny?" Howard's voice was raspy, as if he'd been screaming. "Even now you think you can stop the evolution of our species? Look around you." He gestured at the gathered crowds, at the strange storm above. "The convergence is happening. All these gifted children, all their power gathering in one place. The veil between present and future is tearing apart." "Dad, please," Rebecca begged, and for the first time they could see the scared daughter behind her cold exterior. "Something's wrong, the visions, they're not making sense anymore." "Everything makes sense," Howard shouted. "I've seen it all. Every possible future, every branching path. We are meant to rule, to guide humanity into a new age of consciousness." "No, Uncle Howard," Emma said quietly, stepping forward. "That's not what these gifts are for. Let me show you." She held out her hand. After a moment's hesitation, Lily stepped up beside her and took it. One by one, other gifted children from the gathered families moved forward, forming a circle. "Emma, no!" Sarah cried out. "It's too dangerous." "Trust me, Mom," Emma said calmly. "This is what we saw. All of us. In all our visions. This moment, right here." The children joined hands. The strange lightning intensified, swirling around, to them like a cyclone of light. Howard stumbled forward, his eyes wide. "Yes," he exulted. "The power. It's beyond anything I imagined." But something was happening that he hadn't expected. As the children's circle grew, their combined power didn't explode outward as he'd planned. Instead, it began to stabilize. The wild visions and temporal distortions that had been driving him mad started to smooth out, like a choppy sea growing calm. What are you doing?" Howard gasped, clutching his head. "We're showing you what you forgot," Lily explained gently. "The future isn't something to control, it's something to share." Through their joined hands, the children began sharing their visions, not just of possible futures, but of the present moment, of the love that had brought their families here to protect them, parents who had given up everything to keep them safe, siblings who had awakened their own gifts to help them, friends who had believed them when they spoke of impossible things. The storm above began to calm. Howard fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face as decades of tangled, maddening visions finally began to make sense. "Daddy?" Rebecca ran to him, all pretense of control forgotten. "I'm sorry," Howard whispered. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was seeing clearly, but I was so lost." John Sterling wheeled forward and took his brother's hand. We all were, in our own ways, trying to control the future instead of learning from it. The circle of children broke apart, the strange light fading. But something had changed. Every person there, gifted or not, could feel it. A new kind of awareness, not the overwhelming flood Howard had tried to create, but something gentler, an understanding that the future wasn't set in stone, that every choice, every act of love or forgiveness could change what was to come. Jake ran to his mother's arms. Caroline held him tight, crying. Sarah reached for Emma, and Michael found himself embracing them both. Lily stood watching it all with a small, knowing smile. "It's not over," she said quietly. "Future horizons, the other facilities, the people who helped them, they'll have to be stopped." "We'll stop them," Michael promised. "The right way, together." The sun was rising over the Sterling estate, its first rays breaking through the dissipating storm clouds. Howard Sterling, sat slumped in his brother's arms, decades of madness finally lifting from his mind. Rebecca stood nearby, looking lost but relieved, as if a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. And all around them, families embraced, children laughed, and the future shifted and changed, full of possibility rather than fear. The gift of foresight hadn't turned out to be what anyone had expected. Instead of a weapon to control humanity's destiny, it had become a bridge between parents and children, between past and future, between what was and what could be. The war wasn't over, but the first battle had been won with love rather than power. And somewhere in the growing dawn, new visions were taking shape. Visions of hope, of healing, and of a future where no child would ever have to fear their gifts again. The next few days at the Sterling estate felt like a dream. The huge old mansion, which had held so many dark secrets, slowly transformed into something warmer as families came and went, sharing stories and supporting each other. The NSA had set up a command center in the carriage house, working to track down the remaining Future Horizons facilities. But in the main house, a different kind of work was happening. The work of healing. Michael found his father, John Sterling, in the study late one evening. The old man sat in his wheelchair by the window, looking out at the gardens where children now played freely, their parents watching with protective eyes. "You could have told us you were alive," Michael said quietly, sitting down across from him. John sighed, looking every bit his 75 years. "I wanted to, son. Every day for 20 years I wanted to, but Howard had eyes everywhere. If he'd known I survived, if he'd realized I was working against him." "You built the resistance," Michael said. "The safe houses, the escape routes. You helped Sarah when she took Emma away." "Sarah was one of the first to understand the true danger," John nodded. "She saw what Howard's obsession would do to Emma. I couldn't save my brother from his madness, but I could help protect my granddaughter." In another part of the house, Emma and Lily sat with Rebecca in the kitchen. Sandra had flown in from Phoenix and was stress-baking cookies, filling the house with warm, comforting smells. Rebecca looked different now, younger somehow, more vulnerable, her designer suit replaced with borrowed jeans and a sweater. I really thought we were doing the right thing, Rebecca said softly, staring into her coffee cup. Dad showed me visions of a better world, a world where people like us wouldn't have to hide. I never realized how twisted his ideas had become. The visions weren't wrong, Lily told her gently. Just the way he was trying to make them happen. You can't force the future. You have to let it grow naturally. Emma reached out and took her cousin's hand. You're still family, Rebecca. We can help each other heal. In the library, Sarah and Caroline pored over their mother's journals with Howard, who seemed to age years every time his mind cleared enough to understand what he'd done. The original Project Oracle, he explained, his hands shaking as he turned the pages. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We were just trying to understand our family's gift. But then I saw so many possibilities, so many futures. He pressed his hands to his temples. They all got tangled. I couldn't tell what was real anymore. There are other facilities, Caroline pressed gently. Other children being held, being experimented on. We need to find them. Howard nodded wearily. I'll tell you everything. Just promise me you'll help them like you helped me, like the children helped me see clearly again. Tom entered with Peter Wong from the NSA. We've identified 3 major Future Horizons sites, Peter reported. One in Nevada, one in upstate New York, and one in Alaska. But there's a problem. What kind of problem? Sarah asked. Some of Howard's former partners aren't happy about the collapse of Project Oracle. They're accelerating their experiments at the other facilities, and they're not all as humane as Future Horizons was. Humane? Howard laughed bitterly. We tortured children in the name of progress. How could it be worse? Because these people don't care about evolution or the future, Peter said grimly. They just want weapons, and they've figured out how to force precognitive abilities to manifest through chemical means. It's killing the kids, but they don't care. Michael felt a familiar pressure behind his eyes, a vision coming on. Since the confrontation with Howard, his own latent abilities had begun to surface, no longer buried under years of denial. They're going to move the children, he said, seeing it play out in his mind. With them If that happens, he looked at Peter, we'll never find them all. Then we move now, Caroline said firmly. We have resources they don't expect, gifted children and adults working together, the NSA, my brother's corporate connections, and, most importantly, she smiled slightly, we know what's coming. Lily appeared in the doorway. It's already starting. I can see them, the other children. They're fighting back. Now that we've shown them how to control their gifts, how to share visions. Her eyes unfocused for a moment. They're waiting for us. All we have to do is get there in time. Rebecca stood up straighter, finding some of her old strength. I can help. I know their security systems, their protocols, and she swallowed, hard. I need to make things right. It won't be easy, Howard warned. My partners, they're powerful people. Government officials, military contractors, corporate leaders. They'll fight to protect their investments. Let them, Michael said, surprising himself with his conviction. They've spent years hiding in the shadows, using children as lab rats. Time to drag them into the light. Emma came to stand beside her father. We'll need everyone, all the families, all their different gifts, like what we did here, but bigger. Sarah looked worried. It could be dangerous, using that much power all at once. That's why we need you, Mum, Emma said softly. You've spent years learning how to protect us. Now we need you to teach others. John wheeled himself forward. I've spent 20 years building a network to fight this. Time to use it. They gathered in the grand dining room, the extended Sterling family, along with Peter Wong, Tom, and representatives from the other families who had stayed to help. Maps were spread across the table, showing the locations of the Future Horizons facilities. Photos of children who needed rescue were pinned to a board. Intelligence reports and building schematics covered every surface. 3 targets, simultaneous raids, Peter outlined. We'll need to coordinate perfectly. One mistake and they'll start moving the kids. We won't fail, Lily said with quiet certainty. I've seen it, but the vision only works if we all play our parts exactly right. Even the smallest choice matters. Michael looked around the room, at his daughter Emma growing stronger in her gifts every day, at his father John, finally able to share his decades of secret resistance, at his sister Caroline, fierce in her determination to protect others, as she'd protected Jake, at Sarah, whose love had driven her to prepare for this fight years before it began, at Rebecca, seeking redemption for her part in her father's crimes. At Howard, broken but slowly healing, sharing everything he knew to stop the horror he'd helped create. And at Lily, the brave little girl who had started it all by saving him from a bomb on his plane. She caught his eye and smiled, and in that smile he saw the future they were fighting for, one where gifts like theirs would bring people together instead of driving them apart. "All right," he said, straightening his shoulders. "Let's save our children." The sun was setting outside the Sterling estate, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. But this time there was no strange storm, no temporal distortions, just the quiet certainty of people who had seen what needed to be done and were ready to do it. The real war for the future was about to begin, and this time they would fight it together as family. The night of the raids was cold and clear, with stars shining brightly over 3 different locations across America. In Nevada's desert, New York's mountains, and Alaska's wilderness, teams of federal agents prepared to move in on the remaining Future Horizons facilities. But they weren't alone. At each location, gifted children and their families waited nearby, ready to play their parts. They had spent the past week practicing, learning to control and combine their abilities, just as they had at the Sterling estate. Michael coordinated everything from a mobile command center, with Peter Wong's NSA teams providing tactical support. "Everyone in position?" Michael asked over the secure communication line. "Nevada team ready," Emma's voice came through. She had insisted on leading one of the teams herself, with Sarah and Tom there to protect her. "New York standing by," Caroline reported. She and Jake were coordinating with local law enforcement, their own gifts helping to track movement inside the facility. "Alaska team in place," Rebecca confirmed. She had volunteered to lead the most dangerous raid, determined to prove her change of heart was real. In the command center, Lily sat next to Michael, her eyes closed in concentration. "They don't know we're coming," she said softly. "Their precogs are too drugged, too weak to see clearly." But her eyes flew open. "The children inside know. They can feel us." Howard, who sat in his wheelchair nearby, nodded sadly. "They'll be afraid, confused. The drugs they're using to force visions, they make it hard to tell what's real. That's why we're here," John Sterling said firmly. His wheelchair was positioned next to his brother's, their long estrangement, finally healing. "To show them what's real, to bring them home." Michael gave the signal. "All teams go." What happened next would later be described by witnesses as nothing short of miraculous. At each facility, as federal agents breached the outer security, the gifted children and their families joined hands, just as they had at the Sterling estate. Their combined abilities created a wave of clarity that cut through the drug-induced haze affecting the captive children inside. In Nevada, Emma led a circle of teenagers, their shared visions helping the tactical teams navigate security systems and find every hidden room where children were being held. "Mom, we found them," Emma called out. "Third sub-level, East Wing. 23 kids, all under 12. Sarah and Tom's team moved in, finding the children exactly where Emma had seen them, but they weren't the drugged, helpless victims the raiders had expected. The captive children were already awake, alert, having been reached by the wave of shared visions. "We knew you were coming," a small boy told Emma as she helped him out. "We saw you in our dreams." In New York, Caroline and Jake worked together, their newly strengthened gifts helping them track down not just children, but evidence. Computer files, medical records, everything needed to expose the people behind the program. "Got the servers," Jake reported triumphantly. "And look what else we found." He sent through images of bank transfers, emails, surveillance footage, a web of conspiracy that went to the highest levels of government and business. "Send everything." "To Peter's team," Michael ordered. "They'll know what to do with it." But it was in Alaska that the real battle took place. The facility there was the most fortified, run by the most hardened Future Horizons scientists. They had already started, destroying evidence when Rebecca's team burst in. "They're moving children to the lower levels," Rebecca reported, her voice tight. They're threatening to kill them rather than let them be rescued." "No, they won't," Lily said suddenly, her voice strong and clear. "Because they forgot something important, something even my parents didn't understand about the gift." "What's that?" Michael asked. "It works both ways. We can send visions, not just receive them. Show people what could be, not just what might be." Lily stood up, her small face set with determination. "Rebecca, get your team. To link up, I'll show you how." What happened next would be talked about for years to come. Rebecca and her team of gifted families created a circle, just as before. But this time, guided by Lily's instructions, they didn't just share visions with each other. They projected them to everyone in the facility. Scientists, guards, even the administrators trying to flee. Every person in that Alaskan compound suddenly saw themselves as they could be, free from the weight of their crimes, their humanity restored, their chances for redemption still possible if they chose to take them. They saw the children they had hurt healing, growing, becoming what they were meant to be through love instead of force. One by one, the facility staff laid down their weapons. Many of them wept as the full impact of what they had been doing hit them. The children were brought up from the lower levels, carried by the very guards who had been their jailers. "It's done," Rebecca reported, her voice choked with tears. "All children accounted for. They're safe." Similar reports came in from Nevada and New York. In less than 2 hours, over 70 children had been rescued. Hundreds of arrests were being made across the country as Peter Wong's team moved on the conspiracy's leadership. Dawn was breaking over the command center when the last reports came in. Michael looked at Lily, who was tired but smiling. "Did you see all of this?" he asked her. "When you first stopped me from getting on that plane?" She shook her head. "I saw possibilities, but what actually happened, it was better than any vision because we all chose it together." The next few weeks were a blur of activity. The Sterling estate was transformed into a temporary sanctuary for the rescued children and their families. Sarah's network of safe houses expanded into a formal support system. Emma and the other gifted teenagers started teaching younger children how to understand and control their abilities. Howard and John worked together to help investigators dismantle what remained of future horizons, their own gifts helping to untangle decades of conspiracy. Rebecca threw herself into the work of making amends, using her business skills to create a foundation that would protect and support gifted children. 1 month after the raids, they all gathered again at the Sterling estate. The gardens were in full bloom and children played freely on the lawns. Michael stood with his family, Emma, Sarah, Caroline, Jake, his father John, even Howard and Rebecca, watching as Lily was reunited with her aunt and uncle, her only surviving relatives who had been found thanks to the investigation. "Will, you be okay?" Emma asked Lily, hugging her goodbye. Lily smiled, that wise smile of hers. "I'll be fine. My aunt and uncle live in California, but we'll visit. Besides," she touched her temple, "I can always see you in my visions." "What do you see for us?" Michael asked. "For all of us?" Lily looked around at the estate, at the families gathered there, at the new community they had built from the ashes of Howard's failed experiment. "I see healing," she said simply. "I see children growing up without fear of their gifts. I see families staying connected, helping each other. I see," she smiled, "I see love winning over power, every time." "And the future?" Sarah asked. "What? About all those prophecies and visions of change?" "The future's already changing," Emma answered for Lily. "Not with some big evolutionary leap or forced awakening, just person by person, choice by choice. Every time someone chooses to help instead of hurt, to protect instead of control." Michael looked at his daughter with pride, then at all of them. This strange, wonderful, gifted family that fate had brought together. The Sterling name would stand for something different now. Not power or wealth or control, but protection, guidance, and hope. As the sun set over the estate, children practiced sharing their visions in small groups on the lawn. Parents watched with understanding instead of fear. Federal agents chatted with former Future Horizons scientists who had chosen to help make amends. Everything Howard had tried to force had happened naturally, growing from love rather than power. "Ready to go home, kid?" Lily's aunt asked gently. Lily hugged each of the Sterlings goodbye, saving Michael for last. "Thank you," she whispered, "for believing me that day at the airport." "Thank you," he replied, "for teaching me what real power is." They watched as Lily left with her aunt and uncle, but they knew it wasn't really goodbye. The gifted children would always be connected now, their shared visions creating a network of support and understanding that no one could break. Michael felt Emma slip her hand into his on one side, Sarah's on the other. Above them, the stars were coming out, but there were no more strange storms, no temporal distortions. Just the quiet certainty of a future unfolding as it should, guided by wisdom and compassion, instead of force and fear. The saga of Flight of Fate was ending, but the real story of healing, of family, of choosing love over power was just beginning. And somewhere in the growing darkness, children dreamed of better tomorrows, knowing they had the power to make those dreams come true.